budgets of the following departments and its attached agencies: Department of Public Works and Highways, the DPWH Local Water Utilities Administration, Department of Health, the Commission on Elections, and perhaps the Department of Tourism, Department of Labor, and the Department of Information and Communications Technology. We hope to finish all of these within the day. To present the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways and its attached agencies, may we recognize the Chairman of the Committee on Finance, Senator Loren Legarda. And first to interpellate today is Senator Lacson. May we ask the Chairman of the Committee on Finance first to present the budget, Mr. President.
Senator Legarda is recognized to present the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways. And Senator Lacson is recognized to avail of the period of interpellation. Senator Legarda, can you please spread into the record the budget of the DPWH?
Yes, Mr. President. For the GAB of 2017, the budget of the DPWH, including the Office of the Secretary and the LUA, is for a total new appropriations of 452,223,700,000.
Thank you. Senator Lacson has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the sponsor of the budget yield to some clarificatory questions?
Yes, of course, Mr. President, to my Vice Chair, who interpellates me in most agencies. I welcome your interventions.
Yes, I want to help you or assist you.
Yes,
in crafting an improved budget.
Sure, Mr. President.
First of all, through you, I'd like to greet and welcome the DPWH family, some of whom I had the pleasure of working with when I was assigned as Presidential Assistant for Rehabilitation and Recovery. Marami pong magagaling dyan, maraming well-intentioned. I can cite Yusek Momo and Yusek Asis, for example. Sila yung katrabaho namin. And of course, yung bagong Yusek, si Yusek Karen. Used to be my communications director do sa PAR. Anyway, Madam Chair, when I presented the budget of the ARM, one of the questions raised by the distinguished minority leader, Senator Recto, was the reduction of 8.3 billion pesos from the budget of the ARM. I think we found where it went and more. Look at the budget of DPWH, comparing the 2017 NEP, which is also the GAB 1. For purposes of my interpellation, let's refer to the NEP before it became GAB 2 as GAB 1, the version that the House members deliberated on. With that of GAB 2, or the House version, there is an increase of 8.557 billion in the DPWH budget. Having said that, I don't believe that it is a mere coincidence that the amount deducted from the ARM approximates the increase in the DPWH appropriations under the House version. In the course of my interpellation, I hope I will be able to walk you through and show that such transfers of funds may pose some legal problems if and when the projects covered by such appropriations or increases will be implemented, if not rendered useless, and therefore would end up as unused appropriations. My first question is, how familiar is the distinguished sponsor with RA 9054?
Yes.
I repeat my question.
Yes.
How familiar is the distinguished sponsor with RA 9054?
Quite familiar, Mr. President. I was not yet in the Senate then. I covered it as a young journalist then, but I was supportive. You're referring to this law during the Ramos administration, which created the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao in 1996, correct, Mr. President?
That is the Organic Act.
The Organic Act, yes.
Which could very well be the constitution of the ARM.
Yes, Mr. President.
And I'd like to cite Section 20 in reference to my previous statement. It says, Section 20, Article 6, Annual Budget and Infrastructure Funds. The annual budget of the regional government shall be enacted by regional assembly. Funds for infrastructure in the autonomous region allocated by the central government or national government shall be appropriated through a regional assembly Public Works Act. Unless approved by the regional assembly, no public works funds allocated by the central government or national government for the regional government or allocated by the regional government from its own revenues may be disbursed, distributed, realigned, or used in any manner. In fact, there's jurisprudence in this regard. Ito yung GR number 149848, November 25, 2004. Kasi nagkaroon na ng kaso dito. And the Supreme Court actually maintained that indeed, yung Organic Act, yung RA 9054, is in effect, should be in effect, and respected. Now, my next question is, does the Department of Public Works and Highways have district engineering offices in the ARM?
Yes, Mr. President.
Meron?
Your engineering office. Isabela.
Wala po silang district engineering office kasi hindi sila pwede mag-implement.
Isabela City. In Isabela City, in Basilan, Mr. President.
Isabela City, but Isabela City is not under ARM.
That's why there is in Isabela City.
But
within the geographical area, but not the political
yes,
jurisdiction.
that is correct.
Yes.
And RA 9054 is precisely the reason why there are no DEOs in the ARM. Tama po ba yan?
Because they're independent.
No, they have their own
They have their own
DPWH.
DPWH, yes.
At hindi naman pwede mag-implement yung DPWH national in any of the districts or areas under ARM.
Yes, Mr. President.
Hindi po ba? So, okay.
You also have marami.
Ito yung item number 1.
Isabela City.
Yung description. For the construction, repair, rehabilitation, improvement of BILP or the various infrastructure and local projects for national roads. We notice that the location of the projects, except for the item ASEAN 2017 infra projects, appears to be in the ARM. Kindly explain. Ito po yung ang lalaki, if you notice, from 310
Excuse
million.
me, could I request the picture to be enlarged so that I can see it, please?
Kaya pa ba enlarge?
So, I can't see it.
Well,
This
I can read it
Yes.
for you, Madam Chair.
Is this an increase? I just can't see it.
Okay.
You're
NEP
referring to-
2017 or
Yes.
GAB1,
Yes.
under GAB1, yung code reference 00002, then so many zeros, support operations, and then roads and bridges, national roads, strategic support fund including right of way, tapos construction, repair, rehabilitation, improvement of various infrastructure and local projects. NCR, walang change ito. Mayroong increase na 60 million pesos. Central Office, nandun yung ASEAN 2017 infrastructure projects, no change, 500 million. Region 9, Zamboanga Peninsula, Regional Office 9, proper. Ang in-increase dito, from 310 million, naging 1.5 billion.
In Zamboanga.
Zamboanga Peninsula, under Regional Office 9,
Yes.
proper.
And the question is why the increase, Mr. President?
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
Ipapakita ko lang sa inyo na yung, even if it's under the Regional Office 9 proper, may mga projects dyan na papasok doon sa ARM area, which, as I said earlier, ang tanong ko bakit? Because DPWH cannot implement under the Organic Act. They should be allocated or appropriated sa ARM. So why the increase?
Yes, Mr. President. I have
Okay.
an answer to that Region 9 question.
Okay, 310 million naging 1.576 or an increase of 1.266 billion.
But intended for ARM.
Mamaya papakita ko po sa inyo.
They tell me that this increase is indeed for the projects within the ARM and implemented by the regional office of 9, 10, and 12.
They cannot. Under the Organic Act. They cannot do that.
It's implemented by the,
By the
three regions,
DPWH arm,
ARM, no,
but not by the regional
it's the
office
regional offices.
under the Zamboanga Peninsula, under the DPWH national. They cannot do that.
Yung tatlong region nyo, pero it's within the ARM ang makikinabang. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Is it the first time?
Maybe the sponsor can speak to the
Yes,
microphone
Mr.
so
President,
that
I am informed that it will be, you're correct, it's in the ARM region, but it is a project implemented by the three regional offices outside of the ARM, 9, 10, and 12.
They cannot do that, Madam Chair.
Yes.
My question is, why transfer it to the national office of the DPWH? And nandun na dati sa ARM yan. Ito nga yung 8.317 billion
Yes.
na
Can I
pinag-uusapan
ask for
natin.
1 minute, because I just want to know whether this is the first time it's happening, or is it a
I'm not
customary?
blaming DPWH because this happened during the deliberations in the House.
In fact, Mr. President, I am informed again that clearly this is not in the NEP, and the
Yes.
8 billion transfer was made in the House.
That is correct.
So it
Pero
was.
mapapahamak po rito, hindi yung mga congressmen. Ang mapapahamak dito, DPWH.
Can I ask for 1 minute suspension? I have my own questions as well.
1 minute suspension.
Thank you. Is it the first time this is happening, or every year this is being done? Nagtatanggal sa ARM, linalagay sa regional offices, and the regional offices implement it for the ARM DPWH. And that's allowed. Oh. Can you explain and give me the legal basis? Give me precedents when it's not. An example. And second, in what, give me projects and years it was done, and the legal basis. Even if it's in the ARM. Wait, just so that it's clear. In previous years, this has happened. It's not the first time. And if it's national goals, then the national government can actually implement it for the ARM. Okay. Yes. So there's a precedent given during 619, and roads of national significance are implemented by the. Bakit nililipat galing sa ARM, nililipat sa DPWH na hindi ARM para mag-implement sa ARM? Balik sa ARM. Oo, di ba? Ibalik natin. Oo. Ready to resume, Mr. President? Mr. President,
Session is resumed.
natutumpok ko po ang inyong katanungan. Galing sa ARM, i-implement ng national 3 rehiyon. I-implement naman within the political jurisdiction of ARM. Di ibalik na sa ARM, hindi ba?
That's exactly my point,
We will do that.
President.
To abbreviate this, I agree with you and we will do that.
No, I would just like to point out, just for clarity, ano?
Yes.
Madam Chair. Ito yung mga items, ito yung mga projects, ano? Dahil sinasabi niyo under Region 9 na nasa Zamboanga Peninsula.
Just clarification, hindi po sila ang gumawa.
No, no.
Yes.
Ito yung nga sinabi ko,
It was-
hindi nila kasalanan ito.
Yes.
That's why we're helping them. Kasi sila makakasuhan dito pag in-implement nila.
They agree that since the augmentation came from the decrease in the ARM budget to return it where it belongs, since the implementation of this will be within the ARM political jurisdiction.
Yes. Just for the record, ano,
Yes.
Madam Chair. Ito yun, completing of Marawi. Pwera na yung ASEAN 2017 infrastructure projects. Pero ito lahat under ARM. No? Completing of Marawi, Kapay, Tagoloan Road, Tagoloan Section, Lanao del Sur. First, ito pa yung revealing dito. Bakit legislative district? Ano ba yung LD? I'd like to clarify first.
Ano yung
LD.
legislative district?
Okay,
Mr.
bakit
President?
hindi engineering district? Meron bang legislative district ang DPWH?
There's only an engineering district,
Yes.
but no
Ang may
legislative
legislative
district.
district, Congress.
Yes.
So,
If you want, we can even submit who in Congress realigned this 8 billion.
may idea po kami kung sino nag-
I don't have an idea. Can you tell the sponsor, please?
Bubulong ko sa inyo mamaya.
Maybe no. It's better you put in the spirit of transparency. You can
Anyway,
put it on record.
ma-appreciate natin as we go on. No?
Oo.
Kasi ma-identify nyo naman based on the projects, identified naman by legislative districts. So alam na natin kung sino yung congressman doon. Hindi po ba? So, for the record, yung legislative district, no? Yung sa Lanao del Sur first legislative district, completing of Romandlier Camp Andres National Park, kilometer 44 plus 000 to kilometer 47 plus 000, Sulu second legislative district. Third, Tawi-Tawi Lone District. Another item, Tawi-Tawi Lone District. Malalaki po ito at saka pare-parehong amount.
Can the chair ask a question to Senator Lacson and his
Mr.
sponsor?
President.
The allocation to the ARMM is lump sum, Senator Lacson?
Not lump sum because they submitted the regional development plan. Actually, it's a medium-term development plan all the way up to 2022. And part of the regional development plan would be the projects that are supposed to be implemented for 2017.
And are those, I'm sorry,
Ang nangyari po doon, natanggal nga yung 8.317 billion at nalipat sa DPWH.
yung 8.3 billion, how does it appear in the National Expenditure Program? Is it a lump sum?
Itemized, Mr. President. Hindi
Sorry?
po lang sa- Itemized.
Itemized,
May mga projects na
may mga
identified.
projects.
Because they're following the regional development plan.
Right. And the interpretation under Section 20 is that upon approval of the budget, the funds shall be appropriated through the Regional Assembly of the Public Works Act.
Public Works Act. They will have to enact a Public Works Act, the Regional Assembly.
Sorry, sir.
They will have to enact a Public Works Act. I mean, the Regional Assembly will have to enact a Public Works Act detailing how the appropriations for infrastructure projects will be implemented.
Maybe Chair know how it was done in the past. Not that you are controlled by that, but just as how was this interpreted and implemented in the past? Let's say in the current year, Senator Lacson.
I have no idea
Can this
how
sponsor
they
us?
implemented it in 2016 or 2015, 2014, but there's a Supreme Court ruling dated 25 November 2004 dahil tinransfer po rin yung mga allocations or appropriations from ARM to the national government. Na-struck down po ito ng Supreme Court.
Mr.
Sinasabi
President.
bawal nga.
Yes. Pertaining to the question of the presiding officer, I am informed that this is not the first time that regions outside of the ARM have allocated for infrastructure development within the ARM. In the Aquino administration, this was an annual practice according to DPWH, and because it is contained in the General Appropriations Act, which is a law, the DPWH follows the enactment.
But it's in violation of the Organic Act, which, my question, Mr. President, ano ba yung nagte-take ng President? Yung Organic Act or yung General Appropriations Act?
Before I answer that question, Mr. President, I'm also informed that most of the roads within the ARM are local constituency roads, but national roads that connect to areas outside of the ARM. Alam naman natin, di ba, Cotabato City, ko-connectin din. Yan po, para may continuity, ay ginagawa ng national government. And so it's not the first time that this intervention is made. In fact, even 10, 12 have implemented areas within the political jurisdiction of the ARM because, as we know geographically, Cotabato City is not part of ARM, but it's connected to roads leading to Davao City. And so for continuity in the construction, there are budgets allocated for that. Just like Marawi City is not part of ARM, but connects to the roads up to Cagayan de Oro.
And when it was questioned before the Supreme Court issued a ruling on the matter that they cannot do that.
Well,
When it's being practiced, nobody was questioning it. Ang point ko, Madam Chair, is
yes.
Why transfer 8 billion from ARM na nandoon na?
Yes, this is a different matter. The transfer is clear. It came from ARM, moved out of ARM for ARM. However, the practice of others in the past, Secretary Singsong's time and even before that, where district offices outside of the ARM have projects to help ARM, that's always been done, according to the DPWH. Not the transfer. This transfer seems sneaky. I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that outside of this transfer, which we will put back in ARM if you wish, if that is your amendment, in the past, the regions outside of ARM in Mindanao are allocated projects for national roads connecting to ARM.
Pero klaro naman po yung 9054 eh. Talaga it should be coursed through the Regional Assembly Public Works Act. And the ones who should implement are the engineering offices or district offices within the ARM, hindi ng DPWH.
But how is that? Because the roads are connected, no? Let's say when you go from Jensan, no, to Cotabato. But Cotabato is not part of ARM, but it's a center of Maguindanao, which is part of ARMS. How would you cut the road? And then you have to wait for the Regional Assembly to approve the allocation for that road, which would connect it.
As a matter of course, they approved the Public Works Act. Basta't nandiyan yung appropriations, mag-a-approve na sila o magpapas na sila ng legislation approving the Public Works Act. And if you notice, Madam Chair, just to proceed, kung makita ninyo pare-parehong amount, Lanao del Sur First Legislative District, 75 million. Sulu Second District, 75 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, 75 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, 75 million. Ito, yung Tawi-Tawi Lone District, another 65 million. Now, what does it tell you, Madam Sponsor? If the amounts are practically the same, ano? What does it tell you?
I have no idea, Mr. President.
You have no idea.
Please.
Both of us, we were not born yesterday, Madam Chair.
I don't want to assume. I just want to do it right. And if you believe and if they agree that the right way to do it is to return it to where it belongs, then we will return it to where it came from, in the net.
Anyway, so we are in agreement that during the period of amendment, and even the DPWH family, I think, will agree with me, na pahig naman sila or they're more than willing to remove the amount taken out of ARM sa budget nila, ibalik natin sa ARM para wala nang gulo. Sila po madidisgrasya rito,
Yes.
maniwala kayo sa akin.
Yes, Mr. President. That's accepted.
Okay. Now, let's move on.
Again, before we move on Senator Lacson, the way the chair interprets Section 20, there is a lump sum appropriation for ARMM. After the budget is approved, it is the Regional Assembly who now allocates the funds for infrastructure to the different provinces in the ARMM. That's how I read it. In other words, as part of the autonomy, the regional government receives the public works funds and in lump sum, and then the regional assembly will enact a regional assembly public works act, wherein the lump sum allocation is distributed to the different districts. That's how we interpret the provision.
Yes, Mr. President. But under the ARM budget, naka-itemize na rin yung allocation na yon.
It's not a lump sum.
I-formalize na lang ng Regional Assembly in passing the Public Works Act kung saan pupunta yung mga appropriations.
Precisely, our reading of Section 20
Yes.
is that this is part of the autonomous structure of the ARMM. They are given a lump sum, and the Regional Assembly Public Works Act will allocate where this lump sum for infrastructure will be allocated. That's our humble interpretation. I do not know if the sponsor or Senator Lacson will agree with that. That's how we read Section 20.
That is correct, Mr. President, except that under the ARM budget for 2017, naka-itemize na rin talaga yung mga items na
Kaya nga po,
magagamitin.
nawawalan ng kapangyarihan ang Regional Assembly na magkaroon ng sariling appropriation kasi hindi pwedeng palitan ng Regional Assembly yung General Appropriations Act approved by Congress, which incidentally already disaggregates what the Public Works Act will be.
I see your point, Mr. President, and I appreciate your observation.
Yeah. Mr. President, I'm informed that the DBM does this line item budgeting for the public works of ARM in the NEP based on consultation or submissions of the ARM DPWH, which is included in the NEP, and then it goes through the process. So it's not DBM or the DPWH Manila that does the itemization. It is a submission of the ARM DPWH.
That is correct. That is correct, Madam Sponsor.
Okay.
Just to move on, and just to place it or put it on record, Lanao del Sur, 2nd District, 150 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, another 40 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, 25 million. Tawi-Tawi, 40 million. Another, in Tawi-Tawi, 30 million. Lanao del Sur, 1st District, 75 million. Another one, 1st District, 70 million. 1st District, 50 million. Another, under the 1st District, 50 million. Another 50 million. And then another 20 million. 2nd District, 371 million. Yan po yung mga allocations. So, would you want me to inquire who are the congressmen in those districts? Hindi na.
You can just put on record if you are certain of your facts, just
No.
to spread on the record if you wish. However, we agree already that it will be returned to ARM, and hopefully it will not suffer. I mean, meaning these projects will be implemented whether they are implemented by the 3 regions outside of ARM or within the ARM.
No, it's not a matter of who should implement. It's a matter of, complying with the law or complying with the Organic Act. Hindi ito yung whether it's implemented by the National DPWH or the ARM DPWH. The law is very clear, Madam Sponsor. It's very concerned.
Yes, it's a gentleman saying that there should be no allocation from the national government, and all regions outside of the ARM must not implement any infrastructure project within the political jurisdiction of ARM.
That is correct.
Just on the record, as I said earlier, this has been done in the Aquino administration every year. I understand it's an annual practice from Arroyo, Aquino, Estrada, from the time the Organic Act was passed into law in 96, correct? Yes. So from
Does it
1996,
make it legal or right, Madam Sponsor?
I am told because this is a law, it's the GAA, then it is followed. So it's a practice. Now, it will be a legal debate which reigns supreme. Is it the Organic Act or is it the General Appropriations Act?
Well, I'd like to pose the question to the sponsor. Which should take precedent?
Well, the Organic Act is it's the mother law that should regulate the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao.
Can the chair intervene? And
Yes, of course. How would you interpret that? Should we then cut the practice?
The organic law being a substantive law and having been ratified by the people in the ARMM is superior
To the GAA.
The GAA. The GAA, the General Appropriations Act, cannot amend a substantive law, especially in this case where the ARMM is an organic law which is higher than an ordinary substantive law, as the organic law was ratified in a plebiscite in the ARMM.
We take note of that, and therefore, based on our understanding then, henceforth, no national appropriations must be made for the ARM except that which is allocated for them and unless passed by the regional assembly. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
No, the president, the Senate President very correctly pointed it out. No, yung Organic Act talagang superior ito because
Yes,
ina-affirm sa plebiscite ito eh.
No, I agree. There is no discussion about that. I agree with the Senate President. All I'm saying is that since Congress and the executive has been, in a way, violative of this interpretation of the Organic Act since it was enacted in the Ramos administration, and every year there have been interventions of the national government in infrastructure projects within the ARM. Are we saying that henceforth we are not to allocate for the ARM except for that which is allocated to them and passed in the regional assembly?
We should appropriate the funds
For them.
for the ARM.
And they decide.
Yes, that is correct.
That's fine with me. That's
Decided
no
na po ito,
Yes.
Disumangkop versus DPWH, GR number
Will
149848.
it affect your budget tremendously? Yes, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly agree. Of course, with the interpretation, which is very clear in my mind, of the Organic Act and the GAA, we thank the presiding officer for putting it on record, and we thank you for bringing to our attention the seeming violation, continuing violation since the enactment of the Organic Act. And so the DPWH will comply and will return it to where it belongs.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor. Thank you, Mr. President. Moving on, kindly explain why a total amount of 7.9 billion pesos out of the 16.735 billion for the construction, repair, rehabilitation, improvement of, again, BILP for local roads is under the central office.
Various infrastructure projects. It's itemized in DPWH. DPM just put also central office, but it's not central office. Mr. President, There are line item provisions of this. It is really not central office. They say that DBM just put central office, but these are not central office projects. It's actually itemized.
Can you show this representation, the items as described, Madam Chair?
Anong items no?
Again, hindi po natin sinisisi yung DPWH kasi all the transfers, all the augmentations, lahat ng nanggaling po ito sa House of Representatives. So, hindi naman, kasi sa NEP, hindi naman ganito itsura eh. Kaya nga sinabi ko kanina,
Ano?
yung transfer ng 8.3 billion from ARM to DPWH, marami pang nangyari within the DPWH budget under the House version.
This is not lodged in central office. But these are actually projects all over the country. Mr. President, it is not it is not a lump sum in the central office. I have the list here of the projects in various parts of the country. It's just a administrative term or code put by DBM, but DPWH advises me that yes, and I see it here. It's actually there are line items of various projects all over the country, infra projects.
And I'd like to point out yung 8 billion plus. Hindi lang sa ARM ito na-distribute. Lumabas na po ito ng ARM. So, would you be in agreement with this representation na maski yung na-reallocate outside of the ARM area, but part of the 8.3 billion, ibabalik din natin sa ARM? Kasi iba lumabas na po nasa SOC Sergeant na eh.
Yung galing sa ARM. Oh,
Na 8.3.
You're referring to what we discussed earlier.
Yes, na hindi lahat ng 8.3 billion.
Hindi lang
Sa
lahat,
ARM
Region
din.
9, 10, and 12. I was under the impression that the whole
No,
8 billion...
Region 12 pero labas na ng ARM area. So,
Babalik sa ARM, that's what we said
okay.
earlier. Yes. Yung kanina yung 8 billion na ARM projects na mag-implement. Yes, kaya nga 12, diba? Sinisibit mo sa 9, 10, 12, nag-agree na tayo, babalik sa ARM. Kasi ARM projects.
kasi meron na pong napunta sa Valencia City, Bukidnon. And other areas outside of ARM, pero nanggaling doon sa 8.3. May I know how much yung nailabas ng ARM, nailabas sa area ng ARM out of the 8.3 billion?
Magkano na ilabas sa 8 billion? Can they submit that of the 8 billion which is retained in ARM, which are outside? They don't have it now.
Can they not submit it now? Wala ba kayo record? Kasi alam nyo, pagka yung they will submit, hindi naman po talaga nagsasubmit after the General Professor's Bill is enacted into law.
There'll be a remote monitor sa submissions of agencies, no?
Ilang taon na po ako nag-interpellate, hindi naman sila nagsasubmit.
So, ang gusto lang malaman ni Senator Lacson, yung 8 billion, anong binalik
Yung excess,
sa ARM?
how much was reappropriated or transferred within the ARM region and how much of the 8.3 billion ang lumabas ng ARM? Para sa period of amendment, alam natin kung ano yung i-amend natin.
Non-negotiable, ah. Attorney Yoli, I'm sure, when they talk to this non-negotiable, it should go back to ARM. Diba? Ang gusto, ibalik sa net. So, ang gusto ng ARM. Oo. Yes, yes. Correct. Oo.
Suspend na muna.
Yes, Mr. President.
Do I have the answer, Madam Chair? Uh, 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Suspended for 1 minute.
Kaya na niyo pakita ngayon? ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I am informed that the whole 8.3 billion is retained within ARM. The only infra project outside of ARM is in Cotabato City, but that is for continuity of the infrastructure.
So, Cotabato City is outside of the ARM area, Madam.
Yes.
How much was reappropriated to Cotabato City
Of the 8.3,
from the House version?
yun lang hanap din outside of ARM in Cotabato.
Same items na pero kulang to.
Of the 8.3, ilan yung check natin sa bike.
I want to know now because when I make my individual amendments, gusto kong malaman saan ko kukunin yung ibabalik ko sa ARM. And if we don't identify now kung saan yung nag-spill over outside of the ARM area, saan ko kukunin ngayon pag nag-amend ako?
So, kaya natin gawin lang itong liniwan at ibabalik sa ARM. Hindi, balik naman except this na. Matakal na lang yung tabato.
There's 993,637 million.
600.
Almost 637,500 in Cotabato City of the 8.3. So if the decision, if your amendment is to return everything from ARM that was taken away from ARM, Cotabato will lose this and be brought back to ARM.
This is Cotabato City. Are there other areas?
Yun lang.
Isabela is outside the ARM area, hindi ba?
Isabela City.
Dahil sa referendum nila.
Marawi, Cotabato, Isabela
Marawi.
outside.
Marawi rejoin.
Marawi.
Ang Marawi rejoin.
Marawi is ARM lang. So Isabela and Cotabato. Isabela City, Basilan, 189 million, Mr. President.
189 million. Isabela Basilan. That's all, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. During my interpellation on JAR principles, hindi ba napag-usapan natin, you justified the reduction of 6 billion pesos from the NDRRMC. Ang sabi po ninyo, kasi unused, hindi naman nagagamit ng NDRRMC, kaya dapat lamang nabawasan sila ng 6 billion. In fact, I think 6 billion was reduced or deducted from the House version, and then we further deducted 1 billion yata sa Senate version, Senate Committee report. Now, I'd like to show you the detailed unused appropriations for 5 years, from 2011 to 2015 ng DPWH. Kindly flash the screen. Wala ba? Okay, from 2011 hanggang 2016, kasama na yung adjusted, they're averaging 75 billion in unused appropriations, year in and year out. Kaya yung record, for 2011, 86 billion, 43 billion in 2012, 25.5 billion in 2013, 112 billion in 2014, 116 billion in 2015, and then sa 2016, ang adjusted unused appropriations, 82 billion. Now, my question is, why did we, anyway, babalik na naman tayo sa 8 billion, never mind, I won't belabor that point, but kung ito yung reason for reducing the NDRRMC fund by 6 or 7 billion, hindi ba parang it's a paradox na dinagdagan natin ng House ng 8 billion yung DPWH in spite of huge unused appropriations? I would just like to confirm with DPWH, tama pa itong unused appropriations nila as flashed on the screen.
Can I add the figures? Lakas po. 151 million.
More or less tama, Madam Sponsor.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, unused. Ang pag sinabing unused, unobligated and
And
unreleased.
unreleased.
Now, that should lead me to my next question. How much of these unused appropriations ang unreleased at saka how much yung unobligated?
In short, the question is, of the 116 billion 206 that's expiring by end of this year, is that accurate, the 2015? Or siya finance officer? And then the 82 billion 361 can still be used for next year.
Yes.
So how much of this is still with BBM? We have that. Okay, ano ba? 151 billion. Itong 2015 yung mag-expire. Ayun. We don't have unreleased. Mr. President, what we have now for 2015, which will expire end of the year, is 94 billion, but this is still in the process of being obligated. And as of October 31, which will be carried over for continuing appropriations for next year, we have 151.5 billion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. President. Now, moving on, may we know the reason behind the reduction of 5.9 billion pesos on programs? Paki-flash yung programs. Kasi sa NEP, 372 billion. Pagdating sa GAB or sa House version, naging 367 na lang. Nawala yung o nabawasan ng 5.9. Question is, what's the reason behind the reduction?
Oo, 5.9.
Yeah, pati yung support operations, nabawasan ng 10.8 billion.
The decrease, Mr. President, is attributable to right-of-way acquisition.
Papakita ko sa inyo, laki ng binawas sa road right of way, mga 10 billion, from 31 to 21.
So this, just
So,
this
hindi pwedeng attribution doon, parehong nabawasan.
programs is right-of-way. Difficulty in yung 5.9, right-of-way.
Hindi pwedeng yung reduction napunta sa road right of way kasi pati yung road right of way, ang laki ng binawas.
Mr. President, I'm informed that the 5.9 are mostly right-of-way issues. That's why it was decreased.
Nabawasan din yung road right of way ng 10 billion. I'll show you later.
Yes, I have it here. I see it. There's
So, binawasan yung
there's a
programs.
decrease of programs for 5.9 and another 10 billion decrease in right-of-way.
So, paano pupunta yun sa road right of way kung binawasan din yung road right of way?
Iba yung program na right-of-way, iba pa yung right-of-way.
5.9 billion sa programs and another 10.8 billion sa support operations. Yun mga nabawas.
I see it in the list, Mr.
Yes.
President. Dalawa yun. Oo.
Support.
All of this is, I see. So there's a right-of-way 10 billion. And then the last one I see, so this is the public, the net figure of the increases.
Mr. Pre,
Net, the net of the decreases and increases in that.
Mr. President, the right-of-way decrease is 10.8 billion. But within that, you have the paper. Within that, you will see increases and decreases. And the net decrease is 5.9, which is part, in this 10.8 is part of that 5.9 from the from the increase and decrease.
That's different. It's a total of more than 15 billion, Madam Sponsor.
Now, if you see the
Kasi yung
list,
10.8, yun yung support operations, yun na nga yung road right of way.
yes.
Yung isa, general administration.
The 10.8 is right of way, they decreased that. And under the 5.9, we see support to operations, which is right of way. And there are others here of increase and decrease. And they say that the 5.9 is the net of all those increases and decreases.
Yung 5.9 billion, Madam Sponsor, general administration and support, hindi po sa road right of way. Yung
Yes.
support operations, yun yung 10.8. So magkaiba po yun. I'll tell you why I'm interested in finding out ito mga increases and decreases. Kasi sa House po nangyari ito eh. I want to find out where it went. All the reductions, saan po napunta, saan nirealign ng House. Again, I'd like to reiterate, I'm not blaming DPWH
You're saying
for all these increases and decreases.
decrease, ito ang neto niya.
Mr. President, the explanation is the 5.9 is the net suma total ng mga increase at decrease na kasama itong 10.8 na support to operations na right of way, because if we will see, there are increases and decreases under the 5.9. According to them, if you compute this, it will be a net decrease of 5.9
Sa programs.
in programs. Yes, Mr.
Pero sa support operations, 10.8 billion uli
Is
na
right of way.
decrease.
The
Right of
10.8
way.
is devoted to right of way. It's a decrease,
Yes.
yes. Oo. But
So
this,
that's more than 15 total.
You don't add the 10 and the 5, right? Because the 10 is part of the column of the 5, correct?
Mr. President, I'm informed that it's not 10 plus 5 because this 5.9 is the sum total of the increase and decrease, which would include the 10.8 support to operations decrease of the right of way. While there is a 10.8 decrease of right of way, there are also some increases in other areas, and if you net total this, it would be a net decrease of 5.9.
What programs and activities will be affected by the reduction, Madam Chair.
Mr. President, as you mentioned earlier, the right-of-way decreased from 32 to 21. Okay, and a sample of an increase would be rehabilitation, reconstruction of national roads from 14.9 to 17 billion for an increase of 2. So because of these changes, increase and decrease, the net suma total of that is a decrease of 5.9.
Yes. Anong programs yung naapektuhan ng reduction?
Yun na ho, yung na-increase, na-apektuhan in negative way.
Yes.
that-
Adversely affected.
Well, right of way, basically right of way, no? Yun lang ang palagi.
Yes, right, kuya. Hindi, positive yan yung naapektuhan decrease.
So apart from the right of way, Mr. President, the PPP support fund, which also includes right of way, that's 4.6, nabawasan din yun.
Anyway, let's move on with
Yes.
the response. Yung sa Agno flood structures, control structures, phase 1 and phase 2. Merong 50 million dito. Hindi naman nagalaw, no? 50 million sa NEP, tapos sa GAP, 50 million. May we know the purpose of this item under support operations in relation to sa management services?
So there's a 50 million
Yeah, 50 million.
for maintenance. It's an annual maintenance.
Mr. President, that's for the Agno maintenance.
It's a first time, it's an annual. It's an annual allocation.
It's an annual allocation, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes, Mr.
Meron
President.
po bang time frame yung Agno phase 1 and phase 2? Kasi taon-taon, labas ng labas tong Agno, hindi na matapos-tapos, Madam Chair. Agno River Flood Control Projects Appropriations, 2011.
Sino ang regional?
I have a chart, I have a slide.
Sana pag ganito lang ako para organize tayo. At pag may tanong sa region, I want the regional director to stand and brief me. Para hindi lahat ng sectoral. Basta kung sinong specialty sa region nila, nasagot. Okay? So, ang tanong lang po, ang 350 at hanggang ilang taon ito. Hindi ko tinatanong yung use. Ang sarap mo, hanggang anong taon po nila makita. Kailan po nagsimula? Kailan magtapos po? Kung talagang annual allocation. Taon-taon.
I'd like to invite your attention to the
Mr.
slide.
President, I am informed that it's an annual allocation because it's O&M, it's operation and maintenance. And so that's an annual allocation.
Imagine, 2011, 254 million. 2012, 50 million. 2013, 355 million. 2014, 418 million. 2015, 798 million. Then 2016, 1.2 billion or 1.3. 2017 sa NEP, 1.1 billion. Kailan ba matatapos itong Agno
Hindi
River
raw
na ito?
matapos, taon-taon daw. Taon-taon daw kasi operations and maintenance.
But we're pouring in hundreds of
Yeah.
millions of pesos.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me, okay, paliwanag lang po natin, saan po ginalistos? Kasi operations, the 50 is maintenance. Maybe just explain
Agno?
to us non-engineers, ano po ang pinagagastusan ng 50,000 taon-taon?
Agro River Basin. Mr. President, the 15, what I believe what you're showing on the screen is not for the O&M. Those are capital outlay, tama? But the 50M is for O&M. And that's an annual allocation, Mr. President, because that's needed for a river basin.
Maintenance.
May nag-erode, may nag-soil erosion.
So dredging.
I'm not sure if it's dredging. What is it? To maintain the dikes, Mr. President.
How about the river flood control projects, yung appropriations from 2011 to 2017? Ang tanong ko, kailan po matatapos yung phase 1 and phase 2? Hindi tayo nakaahon doon sa phase 1 and phase 2. And we're pouring in hundreds of millions of pesos every year.
So, 1 minute. So, itong...
Anong suspension, Mr. President?
Last na ito, 2017. Last na po ito. Tapos, puro maintenance na. Yes. Okay, tapos na ang 1 and 2. Yes. Itong 2017 net na 1.1B. That's phase 3. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Tapos na ang 1 and 2. Sige. Agno 1 and 2 have been completed. And the 2017 1.1 allocation, the capital outlay, is for phase 3 of Agno. I am informed that 1 and 2 have been completed.
Completed.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now, let's take a look at the expenditure program of DPWH. Yan po sa screen natin. Kindly justify, bakit nasa central office yung 67% ng budget ng DPWH at 33% lamang ang nasa mga regional allocation? What's the rationale behind this?
DBM lang nomenclature ng DBM. Or actually, I am informed, Mr. President, that this will be automatically downloaded to the regions. It's to the implementing offices in the regions. There's an automatic disbursement to the region. It will not be coursed to the central office once the JA is approved. But somehow, DBM put central office eh.
Yeah, but why? Kaya lumalaki yung unused kasi nga kung parating nakalag sa central office.
Hindi dumadaan sa central office. So, DBM. Okay, it's nomenclature. Just like earlier when you asked me, it's a central office, but once the GAA is approved, it goes directly. I understand your concern, I share it, because baka yun ang dahilan ng unused kasi hindi daw dumadaan. Ayon sa kanila, from DBM, it goes straight to the utilization in the regions, but somehow DBM has this nomenclature. Is there anyone from DBM here? Baka siguro ibahin natin yung salita kasi it's a misnomer.
Yes.
Kung central
office yun.
it would seem like it's a central office project and not a regional project. You're not the central office does not
It's not implementing. That is
They're not
correct.
implementing.
But why don't we just appropriate the budget to the regions and even district engineering offices? Sila mag-implement.
Okay. Whatever it means, they say it's the budget system of DBM. So we have to ask DBM. DBM is here. 1 minute, Mr. President. Papaliwanag sa akin matawag sa 1 minute suspension.
Suspended for 1 minute.
Ready to resume.
Session resumed.
Just as I explained, Mr. President, it is the system in DBM that says central office, but once the GAA is signed, it goes straight to the implementing.
The releases, you mean?
The releases go straight to the regions.
Okay. Aside from the 500 million under the central office, meron pa pong appropriation for the CO under the region-wide Hindi pa yung yan, region-wide, nationwide, amounting to 3.66 billion pesos. May we have an explanation to the sub-allocations? Kasi kung makita nyo sa table, nandyan na yung mga regions, pero mayroong item pa rin na central office. Automatic.
What's the 500 million?
Madam Chair, I hope DPWH fully cooperates with us on this. Kasi, alam nyo, we just want to leave them on their own. Tagal na funds dito. So, nawawala yung autonomy o yung galing ng DPWH na mag-implement kasi napapakilaman nga eh. And that's exactly my point. I want to identify kung bakit nagkaroon ng juggling of funds under the House versions. Ang dami pong nagalaw.
Session is suspended.
Lamsam nga eh.
Okay. So it's to augment the regional offices operations. Mr. President.
Amendment ba yan?
Mr. President. Yes, ready to resume.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I am assured that the 500 million is to augment the regional operations of the projects that have been allocated. And they are assuring you that this will not be used for political accommodation.
Bakit nga mag-augment, Madam Chair? Di ba may planning division?
Pagkulang daw ang mga proyekto, ay meron silang pagkukunan to augment.
You can only augment from savings, di ba? Paano kung mag-augment sa umpisa pa lamang ng 2017, meron ka na naka-reading augmentation, wala pa na-declare na savings?
No,
Di ba
Mr.
pinag-usapan
President,
na natin
because-
yung meaning of savings?
Yes. No, because their feasibility studies and it's not exact and the detailed design and all of that. So the 500 million is a standby fund to augment the operations in the region.
So you're declaring savings as early as
No.
during the General Appropriations Bill deliberations?
It's a standby fund, not considered a savings, with the intent of assisting the regions if the implementation based on the engineering design is lacking.
So what happens kung walang pwedeng o walang kailangang i-augment na projects or PAPs?
Ordinarily, they say, the allocation for central office is depleted, kulang pa nga ho.
No, but ang problema nga, how can you augment an item? Kasi you can only augment from savings, di ba? Pero kung wala pang savings, kasi yung savings dumarating yung end of the year eh. Paano kung magkakaroon agad ng
This is released
500
to the
million?
region when needed.
Sorry?
This is released to the region when needed.
As what? As augmentation?
Is this in the NEP or in the GAP?
Gap, Mr. President.
It's only in the GAP.
Nasa net, sa net.
Nasa NEP pa lang, yun na. It's in the NEP. And that's the practice, no? There's really an allocation for the region and there's a standby fund in central
Well,
office.
the issue raised by Senator Ping Lacson is very valid. This is a lump sum fund with no particular purpose, and you cannot use this for augmentation. Otherwise, we'll have augmentation amounts all over the budget. That's precisely what Senator Lacson is raising.
It is not considered savings per the DPWH. It is sub-allotted to the regions.
Sub-allotted for what?
For feasibility study?
For?
It's sub-allotted to the regions for their engineering designs. For existing projects or new projects. This 500, which is lodged in the central office, is sub-allotted to the regions when needed for feasibility study of future projects, so that
Is there no separate item for feasibility studies?
There is,
I'm sure
Mr.
there is.
President, there's 5.9 billion pesos for feasibility study, project development, preliminary and detailed engineering. Again, lodged in the central office. So, mag-augment pa ulit tayo ng 500 million.
siguro i-breakdown naman. Maybe what we the best is for them to break it down and to explain the utilization so that it is not perceived to be a lump sum.
Now, even if you break it up per region, that is still, there is no specific project for which this money will be used. In other words, this is post-budget intervention on the part of the DPWH Secretary. Because at that point, then the Secretary is empowered to identify projects which will be funded by this lump sum appropriation of 500 million. Now, if the Congress cannot do that, I do not know why it can be done by a cabinet member.
I am informed, Mr. President, that this is not for the regional projects already ongoing, but it is for FS,
For?
engineering designs, and FS of other projects which may ensue apart from the existing projects in the region, which will be allotted to the various regions.
Yes, but what the President is asking is, nasaan yung detailed explanation sa 500 million? lump sum nga kasi walang item na naka-specify kung saan dadalhin.
It's a lump sum. Admittedly, it's a lump sum, Mr. President. Because, and every year you have that. Every year, they have that lump sum for central office, and they said that it is a standby fund for...
So, after the budget is passed and becomes a General Appropriation Act, the Secretary of Public Works under this setup is authorized to identify where this will be spent.
Yes, Mr. President.
Well, that's precisely what the PDAC is all about and declared unconstitutional.
Yun nga.
So, pwede siya. According to the DPWH, the Secretary is allowed to sub-allot it to the regions for use in the regions. For new projects. For feasibility studies of other
I'm sorry,
projects.
sorry.
It can be, the Secretary may or will sub-allot it to the regions for feasibility studies in the regions.
So, it is not so specified as a feasibility study. It can also be used to have a new project in the region. Because it is a lump sum, it doesn't say it is for feasibility study.
Because it only says here, Mr. President, central office, 500 million. Nothing follows.
Yes, it's a lump sum. It is lodged in the central office. The Secretary has the authority to sub-allot it in the region for feasibility studies of programs, projects which may come along so that there's a standby fund for this.
Bakit hindi na lang sinama doon sa 5.9 billion na nakalagay din sa central office, feasibility study, project development, preliminary and detailed engineering, central office, 5.9 billion. Bakit may separate pang 500 million to augment feasibility study?
Mr. President, it is explained to me that it's similar to the right-of-way, that there's no exact amount. We're not even sure if there's an allocation, just like the right-of-way, whether it can be spent or not. The others are spent. Sometimes it's more than the allocated amount. Sometimes there's a problem, it's not spent. In the same way as this, while there are already some allocations in the region, there needs to be some standby fund in the central office so that projects that may come along, you can start it by having a standby fund for proposed engineering design and feasibility studies for these projects which will be sub-allotted in the regions. That's the explanation to me, Mr. President.
Isn't that what exactly the Supreme Court struck down as unconstitutional in the PDAF cases?
I'm not the sponsor. Please answer, Madam Sponsor.
In their interpretation, Mr. President, it is not because it will be sub-allotted and it's really a standby fund. But if the
Balik na naman tayo.
Can congressmen and senators also sub-allot?
no, Mr. President.
So, if the congressmen and the senators cannot sub-allot, why can the Secretary of Public Works sub-allot?
Because the Secretary, Mr. President, needs some flexibility because this is not an exact science. There may be projects which will ensue that will need funding, Mr. President. And so engineering studies, let's say there was an earthquake, bumuka ang lupa, at hindi natin na-project yan. So there must be, and there must be immediate engineering designs, how to put together the roads in the mountains that fed into the roads, into the communities. So there would be a standby fund for feasibility studies and engineering designs because it's natural calamities. So there are, the Secretary needs some flexibility as to funds which could be readily available. And they assure me this will not be a kitty for political personalities.
Yes.
Anyway, di ba merong NDRR na
No, example ko lang naman yung earthquake. What I'm saying is that it can be used for others. Yes. Example ko lang yung earthquake. Yung naisip ko agad. Mr. President, Secretary Villar says that he will itemize it. They will specify the utilization of the 500 so that we know, number one, he has an elbow room, and second, we will also know, they will be transparent in the utilization of the 500 million.
anong item, for example, Madam Chair?
Earthquake nga?
Kasi kung feasibility study, I repeat, meron 5.9 billion na nasa central office eh. Kung road right of way, meron namang 32 billion na pinawasan ng 10 billion. So saan pa dadali yung 500 million?
Sa nakaraang taon, kay Secretary Singson, saan niya ginamit yung central office lump sum?
Ayan ay nanay, sige lagot kayo.
Dito na yung nanay. I will terminate my interpellation.
One minute suspension.
Ituliwala niyo sa akin. Pwede lang, isa lang example na pinagamitan ng central office. Yun naman yan. Sa akin. Hindi kasi nga, ang punto lang nila, bakit hindi nyo ma-foresee ang tax relief sa ito? Kasi ang Supreme Court ay dapat walang posing na namin. Dapat alam mo yung magkaroon. Can you give me an example of forensic? No, lang. Let's not argue about it. Just give me an example. Teka, Mark. Dali. Sabi ko na, just show me an example and say, so this time, saan nila? I want to talk to the engineers. So, just tell me, saan yung pinagagamitan yung naka-launch na funds